So Stephen Mendelsohn from Second Thoughts, Connecticut, testifying in strong opposition to House Bill 5326. Movements are known by their mottos. The civil rights movement sang, "We shall overcome." In the disability community, we have our own motto, "Nothing about us without us." We, us, interdependence community. Compassion and Choices has its motto. On their green stickers, multiple Facebook pages, and recently in the Capitol Concourse, "My life, my death, my choice. Me, myself, I." Revealing. That display in the concourse reduced a complex issue to a set of 6-word slogans that could be seen by kids on school tours. Did Compassion and Choices care that mercilessly bullied autistic or LGBT teenagers will be exposed to messages proclaiming that my death is my choice? With death by suicide the answer to suffering? No. They advocate rights without responsibilities, liberty without duty or obligation. It's all about themselves. They don't care about all of the collateral damage assisted suicide legislation causes. They demand their right to die, but will not defend our right to live. From Barbara Coombs-Lee's op-ed in the Oregonian supporting Oregon Medicaid's denial of Tarsava to Barbara Wagner, to their being entirely AWOL on the DPH MOLS pilot, we see that CNC is not about choice, only their choice. They don't care about misdiagnosis or misprognosis cutting lives short by years, even decades, as the case of John Norton, which John Kelly had mentioned earlier. They don't care that House Bill 5326 is a prescription for elder abuse on a massive scale, or that family members can be kept in the dark about a relative's assisted suicide. What if your parent or spouse were to ingest a lethal prescription and you had no idea it was coming? When it is my choice to my death, widows and orphans do not matter, family and community do not matter. It's all about me. They deny truth. Referring to the issue of suicide contagion, Representative Betsy Ritter is quoted in the Yale Daily News saying, quote, "Her research team found no rise in states that have right to die laws. But according to the Centers for Disease Control, Oregon's already high suicide rate has increased much faster than the national average from 1999 through 2010, 49% versus 28% for ages 35 to 64. Facts are stubborn, inconvenient things. Let us not sink to the level of a self-centered movement that appeals to our basest instincts, especially our fear of disability as we grow older. Progressives in particular should fear and loathe this prejudice and the discrimination it entails. Instead, let us hearken to the call to conscience. Reject Compassion and Choices in House Bill 5326, which have far more in common with the selfishness of Ayn Rand than the dream of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. We shall overcome.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions? Yes, Senator Holder Winfield.
As I listened to your testimony, in one part you talked about the people on the side that I would currently be on, not wanting to defend your right to live by the actions I assume we would be taking by passing this bill. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I'm saying is, again, it was actually Senator Welch even mentioned it earlier, and I mentioned it in my testimony. Barbara Coombs-Lee has an op-ed in the Oregonian. Let me, it's actually, I take it right here. It's actually titled here, "Sensationalizing a Sad Case Cheats the Public Out of Sound Debate," where she actually advocates that there was a case where Barbara Wagner and another person named Randy Stroop received letters from Oregon Medicaid, the Oregon Health Plan, where they were told that the state of Oregon would not pay for their cancer treatment, but they would pay the $100 or so for the suicide drugs. And Barbara Coombs-Lee, who is the president of Compassion and Choices, wrote an op-ed right here in the Oregonian, basically saying that the Oregon Medicaid was right to do so, and that we should that we should ration care, and we should try to steer people away from aggressive treatment and towards either palliative care or toward hospice, or if whether or not they want it, or towards what you would call aid in dying. That's not choice. And I think, as I said, also, we just had a debate here on Friday, and I am on the MOLS committee. Kathy Ludlam is on the MOLS committee. We have almost all the people here who are opposing this bill, who are supporting the medical orders, the Department of Public Health's medical orders for life-sustaining treatment. We had some issues last year, but we all want to see people have real choice. Ariel Levin Becker wrote a piece for the Connecticut Mirror on Friday on that bill. And she asked Tim Appleton of Compassion and Choices what was his opinion on the MOLS bill. He had nothing to say, and he flipped it over to today's bill on assisted suicide. My question is, if a Compassion and Choices was really about choice, and I'm not saying the average person here who thinks naively this is about choice. We call ourselves Second Thoughts because the more people think about this issue, the more they oppose it. Happened in Massachusetts, will happen here in Connecticut. But what happened was that when Tim Appleton basically responded, he had nothing to say about the MOLS bill. Why were they not involved in this? If they really believe in choice, why are they so focused on this very controversial issue and are not doing anything here in Connecticut to improve other areas where there's a lot more consensus?
Mr. Mendelsohn, you made the statement just now that when people think about this, they will tend to move towards your side.
Look at Massachusetts.
I'm not finished.
Okay.
I used to be on your side. And because I was forced to think about this, I am on the other side.
I'm sure there are a few.
Let me finish.
I'm sorry, I'm autistic. It's difficult for me. I'll let you finish.
So I think that it is important when we have these discussions that we actually talk about what is happening and think about the variations in the way that people see the world, and that sometimes people aren't in opposition to you because they are prejudiced against elders. They aren't in opposition to you because they want to get rid of the disabled. They aren't in opposition to you because they are looking to make the way that we operate financially feasible, make a financial gain. Sometimes they're opposed to you because they actually have the very experiences that you're talking about. That's important. And I would say to you that for me, it is important to respect the opinion of others. And when you say that these people are naive, there's a lot of knowledge that I now have based on the fact that I actually went through a situation where someone who I love, who I did not want to die, every time I went to see her, begged to die because of the pain she went through. And there are people in this audience who may not get to speak who have been through things. So I'm just asking you, as you go forward, I'm more than happy to ask you more questions because there's other stuff. Yeah. But as you go forward, just kind of think about that. That's important.
I understand. I feel for your loss. But as you heard Dr. Andrews before, Dr. Ira Byock, who's the nation's leading palliative care expert, it's not necessary. Basically, it's an example of our social failure. The fact, as Dr. Byock said, again, I carry in his testimony in Vermont, and this is exactly what he said here. As a physician, I have devoted myself to advocating for the rights, and and I'll just say he's a staunch progressive Democrat. As a physician, I have devoted myself to advocating for the rights and well-being of seriously ill and dying people and their families. If legalizing physician-assisted suicide represented an authentic extension of personal freedoms, I would be an ardent advocate. In reality, giving doctors the authority to write lethal prescriptions represents acquiescence to well-documented social failures and unmet needs of ill people and their families. While masquerading as progressive politics, the right to die is an effective slogan. Legalizing physician-assisted suicide is regressive social policy. And I'll just skip down here. If I thought lethal prescriptions were necessary to alleviate suffering, I would support them. In 34 years of practice, I have never abandoned a patient to die in uncontrolled pain and have never needed to hasten a patient's death. Alleviating suffering is different from eliminating the sufferer. Allowing a person to die gently is importantly different from actively ending the person's life.
Mr.
My other
Mendelsohn,
question, my other thing is, if they so radically believe in my choice to my death, why do we have suicide prevention? Why are they wearing these green stickers in the room here? And if they don't believe in it, if they don't take that what they're saying literally, why are they wearing the stickers? Why are they putting it on these Facebook pages right here? Why did they put that display in the Capitol Concourse where kids, teenagers, some people like me who are autistic, bullied, who might get that idea that their death is their choice? That is a very dangerous thing. And as I said in my testimony, look at the suicide statistics in Oregon. My problem here is, and yes, I understand your pain, I understand what your mother went through, but there's a tremendous amount of collateral damage. And I think, again, the more people look, the first response that people have is, this is about choice, this is about compassion. Most people, what happens is, and this happened in Massachusetts where the polls went from 68 to 19, and then it was defeated 52-48, and especially by people in a lot of the urban areas where they are exposed to serious issues of undertreatment. That is a serious problem. People with disabilities, African Americans, Latinos, poor people have serious issues of undertreatment, not overtreatment, or more so than overtreatment. Let me clarify there. So when I say that people tend to have second thoughts, that's what the history has always shown. When we see the polling from Quinnipiac that says that's I think it was about 61% here in Connecticut supported this bill, we have to understand two things. One, the phrasing, but even more so, this was a likely voter screen. We all know who the likely voters are. We all know who are screened out by likely voter screens. And the people who tend to be screened out by likely voter screens, again, African Americans, Latinos, people with disabilities, people of the lower socioeconomic classes, have a lot more to fear from this.
I will end here because I think we have others who need to testify.
Okay.
I do think it is important to consider the fact that I was on your side. I do think there are many people who've been through situations like mine who didn't turn out the way that you came here to tell us that they did. I also think it's important to not assume the motives of people who are on the other side of an issue from us.
I think, okay, you finish speaking, I'll clarify.
I also would like to say to you that whatever any organization associated with moving a bill has as their reason for doing it is not necessarily the reason that all of the people who are involved have for being involved in that movement or working towards a bill. And so to talk about one segment of the groups of people who are concerned about any policy as representative of everyone, perhaps because they get press, perhaps because they are louder, is not representative of that entire group, and I think is misleading what the thought of the entire group is. And you can respond to that, and I'm done after that, Madam Chair.
I'm talking here about the leadership. I'm talking about the people who've been involved in this issue for years and who've seen the arguments and who see all of the abuses that are coming out of Oregon, cases like Tammy Sawyer and Thomas Middleton, Jeanette Hall, Barbara Wagner, and they have no answers for this. They have no answer for all of these other issues, and they basically deny that there's collateral damage. That is what I'm talking about. I'm not talking, your situation. You certainly went through a very difficult situation with your mother. We certainly feel for you on that. I certainly understand there's emotional pain for people, the people who are here because people like Sarah Myers, for instance, who are struggling with that, although I would say there are other people, as Kathy pointed out earlier, with ALS who have a much more positive attitude on life. I mean, I understand there's a certain amount of nuance here, but the simple fact is it's appealing, the simple-minded appeal of slogans, of six-word slogans. This is a very, as you're saying, this is a very difficult issue, and the other side is basically saying, at least I'm talking about the people who are leading and organizing this effort. They're basically reducing this to six-word slogans. As we saw with the Moles pilot last Friday, these are very complicated issues. That's the whole point where I'm trying to get across. The first impression a lot of people have, it's about choice. That's the first impression. And what we're saying is dig deeper. Look at all of these, look at all of the problems and damage this causes. Simple, and don't reduce it to just, it's a matter of my personal choice. That's what I'm seeing. As Dr. Andrews said, it really, in many ways, in much of this, and you see it, it's a radical individualism. And I find it very strange to see progressives in particular going for something that is much more in concert with the philosophy of Ayn Rand than it is with the idea that we have obligations toward each other, that we're responsible for each other. We in the disability community, many of us here in this room, Elaine, Kathy, Claude, John Kelly, could not live one day in a world where it's all about me, myself, I, my life, my death, my choice. That's a problem. Why have for so many years we've seen that on billboards, stickers? My point is that's a very dangerous message to send. And, in terms of suicide contagion, why don't they care why are the leaders of this movement not caring about this? Why is it only a narrow focus on this bill and this issue and not looking at the broader picture?